Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to TRTN. Quickly into the qualifying session here for the final round of VSR Phoenix Season 8 live exclusively on TRTN. As always, I am Regan Clark, and you join us from where it all began for us here, where we began the coverage all the way back at the start of Season 7 on the outskirts of Johannesburg, South Africa, at the Grand Prix circuit Kyalami. Founded in 1961, Kyalami consists of 2.8 miles and 16 turns of FIA Grade 2, former and potential future home of the South African Grand Prix, with plans that are being greenlit as we speak to renovate this mighty circuit to FIA Grade 1. Kyalami is one of two major motorsporting hubs in continental Africa, with the Kyalami 9 Hours, its current only event on its calendar, being the second largest event of the year behind the WRC's Safari Rally Kenya. The stakes have never been higher heading into round 14, and the last 11 weeks of racing have spun a story of unparalleled magnitude, with controversy and history woven into every corner. Season 8 has given us an absolute treat, but all good things come to an end, and what a better place to round things off then, before the summer break as we head into Season 9, than Kyalami. Make no mistake then, ladies and gents, we are in the end game. 3 categories set to clash on track in contention for their division title, but only one will be crowned VSR champion. We're on board at the moment with VSR Otzi, the first of our drivers to make their way on to the track here. Actually a little under 18 minutes here, as our clock is a little bit slow left in qualifying so far. And whilst he makes his way around the track, let's start things off then on the discussion of the championships at play today. Starting things off then in the Bronze Championship, where it is separated between the top 3 by a meager 6-point gap. VSR Smiler started Barcelona last week in 3rd place in the championship and now has emerged at the top step, leading by 6 points to a joint 2nd between Jaco and Abok. Shawnee Mac still numerically within the fight for the Bronze Division Championship. In silver, it is an incredibly close tie here between 2 drivers, VSR Otzi, the number 6 McLaren, versus VSR Grizz and the number 44 Audi R8, separated by 9 points in the championship. We'll get on to the story of the parlay as to who can come out on top in a moment's time. You can see VSR Antion there, who's 3rd in the championship, joining us on track physically behind Otzi, who now leads the charge with 9 points to play with. And then last but not least, but into the gold category, where Tyler Vermack hangs on to the tempting offer of a championship title on incredibly thin odds by a shoestring's width here. That is a 48-point gap. Numerically, he would need 50 to be out of the way. White Doctor leads the charge then with 456 points. We'll have a look at the overall standings at the end of qualifying, along with our news and the results from last round, which sadly we missed out on with 11 minutes to spare. Rest assured, that's been uploaded to YouTube and is still archived here on TRTN for your viewing. We have the results available to post then later on in this race. As we head towards then the start-finish line to finish off our first flying laps of today, we're on with VSR Otzi as he sets the first time of today. As he crosses the line on 142.237, Antion on his tail. Where does he rank in the Mustang as he crosses the line? Appears to be an invalid lap, so it seems. Now onto the discussion of the qualifying predictions before we get on to the division parlays. Looking in the qualifying predictions for today taken this afternoon, it pitches Tyler Vermack on pole position by half a second to VSR Chris, with White Doctor making an Aston Martin 1, 2 and 3. VSR Otzi on our screens at the moment is predicted at 4th, and that puts him at great advantage to his rival directly in front of him on our screens as we make our way through Sunset Curve. That's VSR Grizz and the number 44 Audi. Wishful Winnings makes the top 5 ahead of VSR Antion in 6th, Regent 7th, Grizz 8th, Jaco 14 in 9th, and Tommy Johansson makes the top 10. Balance of performance-wise heading into South Africa, it is only 2 manufacturers gaining any kind of advantage today, and that being Lexus and Ferrari, neutral and 34 kilo reductions. Everyone else on the positives: Mercedes 3 kilos, Porsche 4, Audi 5, BMW 7, McLaren 11, Ford 14, and Aston Martin, who seem to be right at home here on the outskirts of Johannesburg, with 15 kilos added to the weight. We're watching here VSR Chris having taken the new fastest time, Otzi putting himself within 300ths of a second there, 200th and 1,000th, and then we've got the Blue Frog putting himself within 7 just over actually 700ths of a second. That's 700th and 1000th, and then Wishful Winnings putting himself 800ths and 9000ths. So that's 4 drivers separated by less than a tenth of a second, and what a way to kick off the start of our last qualifying session of the season. Looking at that calendar, we're here at the final chapter, July 9th, then round 14 at Kyalami. It has been a long 11 weeks of racing, but only one driver could emerge the champion here in VSR Phoenix, the overall champion that is, with 3 division titles at play as well, from gold down to bronze. Watching here with Wishful Winnings, who started this season off in the reserve standings, now joins us from gold in the number 23. One driver to keep a close eye on then, Tyler Vermack, who's just started his flying lap. Will stay on board with him over the course of this flying lap, and it is looking incredibly strong for him today. I have not seen a drive this focused since Bathurst in the NLRL solo multi-class endurance at his time in the 835 Lexus. This is an incredibly poised Tyler Vermack, a man of stern conviction coming into Kyalami. He has been tailoring around with that Aston for the longest time, but this really seems to be a case that he is properly locked in on his objective today. Pole position by any means necessary. To have a look at the odds it would require to bring him to championship glory here in season 8. Let's have a gander then, from starting at bronze all the way to gold, our championship fight parlays. In the bronze category then, starting us off, of course, 6 points divides all 3 of our current contenders, 4 numerically still within the fight, including Shawnee Mack in 4th in the bronze championship. In order for Smiler to win the bronze championship, it is to finish ahead of his adversaries at all costs here, no matter what. No holds barred, no punches pulled for either Jaco or Abok to win. They have to finish a minimum of 4 or 5 positions ahead of Smiler and then ahead of one another. Then heading into the silver parlays for this round in the championship, a story of 2. Grizz v Otzi by 9 points. For Grizz to win, he has to finish ahead at all costs. For Otzi to win, he has to clear Grizz by a minimum of 10 points. The current predicted result, based on qualifying and race predictions, race pace predictions and qualifying pace predictions, places Otzi 4th, Grizz anywhere in the range of 6th to 8th. The minimum he requires here is 4th and 8th between Otzi and Grizz to secure a 1-point lead in the current direction of Otzi, who's on the back foot to Grizz heading into this round. So it is looking incredibly strong here. Already some of our times rolling in whilst we've been watching with Tyler Vermack. Vermack only placing in the 3rd fastest time. Wishful Winnings in the Ferrari there on neutral weight puts in a 141.757. That's 0.042 of a second ahead of Regent, who looks to be on absolute peak form here on the final race of season 8. Vermack 3rd at the moment, and it makes an Aston Martin 3 and 4. VSR Chris starting another flying lap with 12 minutes to spare here, is only off of his fellow Aston by 300ths and 8000ths of a second. The real question therein remains, what is the capacity for White Doctor to come along and challenge the qualifying status quo? Right now, the top 2 separated by less than a tenth of a second, and White Doctor was predicted himself at 3rd position coming into today's qualifying session, and whilst he leads that championship by 48 points, are we perhaps seeing the indications of a little bit more of a relaxed drive here now that a lot of the hard work has been done? Are we seeing a little bit more of a hesitant performance by White Doctor here in qualifying? He's clearly biding his time here, waiting for the track to rubber in a little bit more. Conditions right now, having a look at it, are pretty hot on track, to say the least. 31 degrees on track temperature, 24 ambient. It is a scorcher here in South Africa for the final round, and White Doctor just dropped off his jacks there. Could we be seeing the 54 make its way out? We'll catch up with him later on. Wishful Winnings then down to the line, looking for an extension. Vermack takes pole by 0.6 of a second. What's the rebuttal by the 23 as it rolls across the line? Sadly, not an improvement of position. 777 next to the line. Hin Hin Pappy competing from the reserve category in that beautiful, almost chrome purple Ferrari 296. Currently in 7th, sandwiched in between the vivid blues there, the number 61, the Blue Frog. And then right behind him, the green and black of VSR Grizz, making his way back out to the track as we speak. Next driver to the line then appears to be the number, looking at it there, the number 32. That's VSR Smiler, who, looking at the results as well, had a pretty solid outing, all things considered, back in Barcelona. 6th overall and a division win in bronze. Sweetens the deal here for Smiler's opportunities to come and have a go at the bronze championship, of which he now leads, as we mentioned, by 6 points here. Very, very finite gaps in that championship parlay. Blue Frog takes second fastest then, splitting the margin by half the time to Wishful Winnings. 6 attempts to 3. Vermac leads this timing session then at the halfway mark with a 141.125. Still yet to see an appearance on track by White Doctor. His team still fettling over the 54 to get it going. Not entirely sure what on earth is happening then in the paddocks there for the 54 Aston Martin. Seeming a definitely tad more shy than we've seen him before in qualifying sessions, but we know this is all tacticianry at play. Blue Frog having a bit of trouble there on his way up towards, looking at it there, that would have been, I believe, Clubhouse corner there. And speaking of, let's catch on board with one of the drivers just about to start their flying laps to get a tour here of the Grand Prix circuit, Kyalami. Who should we catch on board with? Let's see if we can catch on board with Hin Hin Pappy in the 777 Ferrari 296, taking us around the track. Then let's get on board with this Ferrari on our way down toward turn 1 and 2. Just hushing the noises there, that monstrously loud V6. We're out through turn 1 already at the kink and down into one of our first major attacking spots, turn 2. An incredibly sharp left-hand open hairpin at Crowthorne corner, up the Juxgaze sweep, but he pulls away. So that's already throwing the towel in a little bit early. Let's catch on board here with the Blue Frog. Exits the Juxgaze sweep and up into turn 5 at Barbecue. Now onto one of our first of 2 straightaway sections before we get back to the start-finish line. On our way up towards Sunset here, a long banking right-hander. The front engine cars may be struggling a tad here for understeer. You can see getting all the way to the far left-hand side of the track. You have to snap it all the way back to the far right of the track before he gets up through Clubhouse Corner. Now, this is the section of the track he had trouble with earlier on, as we saw the lap before. Down into the S's, turns 8 and 9. Up to another major attacking spot on track here. We've seen plenty of drivers try their hand up the inside here at Le Cop at turn 10. Incredibly sharp, parabolic hairpin left. Ample room on the inside with a very wide banked curb, I should say, on his way out of turn 11. Then down towards Mineshaft and incredibly fast. Almost give it the old Sterling Moss mentality there at turn 12. That long sweeping left-hander brings us into another major attacking spot. We've seen plenty of people try their hands just as much as we've seen at Lukop down here at Crocodiles. Turns 13 and 14, then into a very infamous corner indeed. Cheetah, get on the inside there at that yellow sausage curb. Will have you up very, very quickly. Out through Ingwe then at turn 16 to bring us to the line. Doesn't appear to be an improvement according to telemetry there, about 10 seconds off the beat, but that gave us a pretty comprehensive understanding of what to expect coming into today's race. Of course, still on standard formation, an hour-long race on the charts here. So no more sprints, sadly, at the final round of the championship. Having a look around the track here quickly to see who makes their way to the line. Shawnee Mack from 14th on track makes his way to the line and stays there. Let's see what Grizz can do. He makes his way to the line from 10th position and remains there, sadly, after that last run. Wishful Winnings crosses the line, maintains 5th with a 154.182, an egregious time there. Something out of the ordinary for the number 23. Still see White Doctor stuck in neutral, not doing anything there in the pit lane. Very, very peculiar. VSR Chris looked like an incredibly strong performance so far, and so I'm told. I believe. Oh, wow, look at that there for VSR Smiler. Fellow Aston Martin up in the top 10 there. That's the bronze leader sandwiched amongst what appears to be some of the leading cars in silver, as a matter of fact. That's the silver leader there, or one of the 2 leading cars in silver, I should say. That's VSR Oatsy. You can see on track there, physically ahead of VSR Chris, who we're on with at the moment here. The number 28 Aston Martin, who had a very strong race after that wave of problems back in Barcelona. Finished 2nd for an Aston Martin 1 and 2. At the end of round 13, having a look at those previous wins to sort of give us a wrap here as to what's happened over the course of Season 8. What a long 11 weeks it has been here with 6 minutes left to go. We're still on board with VSR Chris. Right now, it's Vermac from Blue Frog from Region in that top 3. Chris right alongside them then. And are currently just around 5 drivers there inside a second of one another. VSR Antion in 6th is just over a second out. For the previous wins then, Ferrari has notoriously gone this entire season without a race win. Wishful winnings is their only opportunity right now, their only hope, so it seems, for a race win before the wrap of Season 8. Right now, it has been primarily led by two manufacturers, Aston Martin and Lamborghini. That's been in the hands of White Doctor and Just Boris primarily, but we also see accompanying wins there by OSR Saturn in Lamborghini. But White Doctor has seemingly been the sole proprietor of wins for Aston Martin, but there are plenty of drivers looking to make their mark here in Season 8. They have plenty of time left in this qualifying session to do so. VSR Chris, we've been on board with at the moment, just making his way to the line from 4th position on track. The 28 challenging the two Fords ahead of him. It is a surprisingly strong performance by Ford. Now, I was having a conversation with some of the drivers before we went live today, and it really did seem to be a readily apparent case that Ford hadn't made their car for qualifying. Of course, there's that discussion in Formula 1 that certain teams do prioritize development of the car into more strong performances in qualifying, but things just don't piece together on race day. See case example number 1 Scuderia Ferrari in the last couple of seasons. But it's a conversation that doesn't often get talked about in GT, because GT cars are often made with a little bit more care and consideration for all weather conditions. They are designed to be rough and tumble, adaptable by all stresses and imaginations there. And Ford, for the longest time, didn't appear to be a manufacturer capable of maintaining solid qualifying performances. I'm not to say that we haven't seen some good ones, but I can count just about as much Ford pole positions on one hand here as I can Ford race wins. I mean, we've only had one to speak of over the course of the entire season. That came from Essen Quis at the final run of the Red Bull Ring Sprint rounds at round 4 of the championship. Beyond that, Ford has gone quite dry here in terms of racing performances. Could it be the day then for Blue Frog and Regent to come and upset the status quo? Well, I am thoroughly looking forward to seeing how things pan out then for the 61 of the 420. Right now, Tyler Vermack seems to be the man to be. Fun fact, before he moved to Europe, Tyler Vermack lived within about 20 minutes of the Grand Prix circuit Kyalami, so he holds this track very near and dear to him. This is a track with a lot of history to him as an individual. He doesn't want to go down in front of that home crowd. And really, this is quite a fired-up performance. The only driver right now to be scraping into the 140s. But let's see if White Doctor makes a move out of the pit lane. What can he do here? Is he trying to make things interesting? Much like we saw from Boris at the latter rounds of the championship, namely Nürburgring last season. He did start from the back. What is the strategy here by White Doctor? Is it one and done? Is he going to give one opportunity? Yeah, because he's flashing the camera. He knows he's being watched. He knows that the eyes rest on him as it is effectively his championship to claim. Is he toying with Vermack, or is he trying his own capabilities here? I mean, really, we can't tell. Is there some method to the madness on display? VSR Antion then next to the line. One of the contenders inside silver looks to maintain 3rd in the Silver Championship. Was last season's Bronze Division champion. Making his way to line from 6th position. Maintains that at the end of this lap. Gone. Hinhen Pappy to the line there from 10th. Doesn't find an improvement. Does Blue Frog find an improvement to pole position? He has to find half a second in it to beat Vermack's time. 2 minutes left to go, so a lot of tension there riding on the shoulders of the twin Mustangs in 2nd and 3rd. And you can see that's damage on the nose of Regent's number 420. Something has gone awry, but he is a man with stern conviction, driving that like a thing possessed. He's driving it like he stole it, because namely, he's got a huge dent on that nose there. The front aero is going to be dragging with him throughout this next flying lap, of which he's only seemingly got one left to do in this qualifying session, but he is gunning for it. And only 5 thousandths away from him is the driver just promoted to 3rd place there. Wishful winnings, gunning for gold with Ferrari. Currently lines up at the front of that 2nd row then after that last lap. Could that be changed? What on earth is going on then with this final qualifying session? It has been cinematics as always. VSR Chris then just crossed the line for the 2nd fastest time. It's an Aston Martin 1 and 2. Where we thought we could have seen Ford further up the order and Ferrari alongside them, Aston Martin has been quick to remind us that despite not being on the beneficial side of balance of performance, they are the ones to be. And the Vantage, though manufactured 6 years ago, the one you see here, the 2019 V8 Vantage, is a machine of very, very solid parts. Blue Frog driving out through Cheetah Corner, giving it absolute send through turn 15. Down to Ingwe at turn 16. He's got one more opportunity here for a flying lap. He's sliding his way out of Ingwe curve. That is an incredible exit to a flying lap had ever I seen one. Down to the line he goes then to start his last flying lap. We'll be staying on board with a couple of these drivers as we head towards the end of qualifying. This is remarkable to see such grit at the very, very final closing moments here of qualifying in Season 8. VSR Abok next to the line could be in the bookings for one more flying lap. Abok is one of those 3 cars fighting for bronze at the moment. The 96 is into the pit lane. That's the end of the line for GTR Twiglet, who had some trouble down at Lurkop. Abok may just scrape this one to the line. 5 seconds left to go. He's chasing the timer all the way to the line. And sadly, the timers appeared to have been a bit faster. That's the end of the line for Abok. He's 12th at the end of qualifying. Just seeing across the line there, Otzi finishes qualifying in 6th position. Next driver to the line, Jayco 14. Again, another one of our 3 in that bronze fight. What can the Porsche do? He's done his homework already for Season 9. He'll be in a much more comfortable position if he stays on into the Porsche Cups. Out through Ingwe. It looked a little bit slow there on exit for him, bringing up the telemetry because he's down a tenth of a second. So sadly, it looks to be only 13th for Jayco 14 at the end of qualifying today. But last but not least is the Trinity of contenders here. Antion calling it quits. What does the 777 and the 61 do? Can we catch them? Hin Pappy to the line on what looks to be very close improvement there as he scrapes his way out of Ingwe curve, just loses the time. And Blue Frog heading towards the line, sliding out of turn 16. Also looks to be a done deal. He's down by 0.2 of a second, so as good as it gets there is 3rd at the end of qualifying. It's an Aston Martin 1 and 2. Full grid rundown will be following us in a moment's time. Before we get to that grid, then let's recount what happened last week. Now, of course, all of you will be well aware of the fact that we did suffer that disconnect last Wednesday at Barcelona, but fortunately for you, we have the results here. Now, these are the ones before any penalties were applied. As far as I'm led to believe, no positions were won or lost over the rule-making and decision-making for the rules at round 13 of 14. And it was White Doctor leading the charge then all the way to the line. VSR Chris and Otzi picked up the podium positions. Tyler Vermack down to 4th. Tommy Johansson up into 5th place. Smiler into 6th. Audi Pete and Grizz makes an Audi 7th and 8th. Charlie Smithy 23 picks up 9th after a late drive through penalties. The only reserve driver left in the championship. And then rounding out that top 10, VSR Abok. Jayco 14 and 11th. Shawnee Mac 12th. Antion 13th. Tommy 14th. And quite a few laps down after that disconnect, sadly. 2 DNFs, Regent and Cassie. Fastest lap was 1:43.932 by White Doctor, who led 28 laps of this race, the most of any one driver in Barcelona. And the winning manufacturer, of course, Aston Martin Racing with their 2019 V8 Vantage. Having a look then back onto the grid as we form up here for round 14, the final foire here in South Africa at the Grand Prix Circuit Kyalami. If you're joining us just now, Tyler Vermack takes pole position at home in his home race in South Africa. The 835 Aston Martin lines up an Aston Martin 1 and 2 in quite the triumphant formation there for Aston Martin at the very, very last round of the championship. Having a look then quickly before we begin the rundown of our grid, let's get through the overall championship standings and the news for today. And then the overall championship standings. Starting things off then, White Doctor with 456 points leads the charge by 48 points to Tyler Vermack. Blue Frog secures 3rd position ahead of Just Boris. And then rounding out the top 5 is Tommy with 341 points. Then heading down into the silver category here is the furthest up the order, Otzi with 326 points. Grizz right behind him. Then the 2 silver chargers. 2B for that championship, 317 points in 7th place. Cassie in 8th with 301 points. He's suffering a race ban for rulings made after Barcelona. Wishful Winnings in 9th with 299 points, looks to inherit his position before the end of the championship, and Soviet Mario with 259 points. So, one of the discussion in the news, and only 3 articles of news today. And of course, most important, coming off, hot off the press, mind you, is the news from Formula 1. Red Bull Racing has let go of Christian Horner after 20 years in the team. He was sacked after floundering performance within the team over the last 2 seasons. And he's been with Red Bull since its purchase of Jaguar in 2005. Racing Bulls' Laurent Philippe Mekies has stepped up to replace Horner. Mekies was best known not only for working with Toro Rosso and Racing Bulls, but he was also the former race director for Ferrari. He started his career off at the Arrows F1 team. In our next bit of news comes out of the British Grand Prix. Of course, Lando Norris won in that race, and it was a McLaren 1-2. But the most poignant story to come off that podium was that of Nico Hülkenberg, getting his first ever Grand Prix podium after 239 races in his career. He picked up his podium with Stake Sauber after a stern fight against Aston Martin's Lance Stroll after a very chaotic British Grand Prix. And our last bit of news today then, before we discuss the grid, with only a minute left to go before the formation lap, is coming out of the world of the World Rally Championship. And that is four-time WRC champ Juha Kankkunen, also the deputy team principal of the Toyota World Rally team, is set to drive an experimental new model at the upcoming Secto Rally Finland. The Toyota GR Yaris Rally 2 H2 is set to make its debut. For the first time since the 2022 Ypres Rally, Toyota has been a stern promoter of hydrogen technology. He'll be getting behind the wheel at the upcoming Secto Rally Finland in 2 rallies' time. Next up is Estonia, before we head over to Finland, where we'll see not only this, but a performance out of Oliver Solberg, who makes his debut with Toyota. So, on to the discussion of the grid, and with very little time left to discuss, it's Tyler Vermaak from pole position, and an Aston Martin 1 and 2. VSR Chris lining up in second, Blue Frog third, Wishful Winnings fourth, and Region in the top 5. Otzi in 6th, Antion 7th, Smiler in 8th, Grizz in 9th. So this is playing very nicely into the hands of Otzi at the moment. All he needs is a few more positions to secure silver for his very own. Hin Papi rounds out the top 10. Tommy Johansson in 11th. VSR Abok, we scroll down the order here, in 12th position. Jayco 14 in 13th. GTR Twiglet in 14th. Shawnee Mac 15th. White Doctor then takes a qualifying sabbatical in 16th position. Then rounding things out, Boy Shea in the number 7 is in 17th position. Let's get on board then with the leading cars making their way down towards Crowthorns for the first time. This is set to be an explosive final round of the championship after a very bizarre strategy indeed. We've already seen one disconnect there. That was from, I believe, Boy Shea at the back of the field. Now starting in plumb last will be the current championship leader, White Doctor, in the 54. Now that is a sight to behold. How will he play this out? Because right now, from 16th position, I think he may just still be within the points necessary to take home the championship. But boy, if he hasn't given us a very interesting parlay to play with here, as Vermaak has found himself right where he needs to be. But now, after an entire championship in the making, after 11 weeks of back-to-back races in the 835, he has to chain this together. Now, all of it rides on the line here. Not only is he performing in front of his home crowd, he is performing for what could very well be one of the most miraculous turnarounds in championship history here in VSR Phoenix. Of course, that one mandated pit stop on the charts as well. An hour of racing set to kick off in a moment's time. We're just about at the halfway mark here at the formation lap. And I am keeping very, very close eyes here on not only that top 2, but that top 5 in general. You've got 2 Fords and a Ferrari in and amongst the fray there. All very solid for starting pace. The Astons haven't had the best launches over the course of the season. We'll see what Chris and Vermaak can do. Highly unlikely they'll be working together here to fend off the raging tide of Fords, Ferraris and McLarens looking to take that front row for their very own. This is set to be all-out war here in Kyalami. Really, you can feel it, the palpable tension in the air as we make our way down towards Mineshaft. There are so many variables to consider in both bronze, silver, and gold. All Tyler Vermaak can think about right now is what faces him on his run down towards turn 2. That's all you've got to do. It's just tunnel in on one solitary goal here, and that is to lead by all stretches, all stretches imaginable. Tommy Johansson has rejoined the session after a disconnect there and starts from the pit lane. Very, very bizarre indeed. We're on our way down towards Cheetah Corner then, as we are but mere moments away from the final round of VSR Phoenix Season 8. And what a pleasure, I must say, it has been from us here at TRTN to be with you every step of the way. It can all come down to just one moment here. An hour awaits us just yonder, turn 16. 3 championships, 4 if you count the overall, on the line here. History is about to be made for the final round here, round 14 of VSR Phoenix Season 8. Without further ado, as we roll 17 cars in all in this championship round, down towards the start line. Without further ado, we are green and racing for the final time this season here in South Africa. On our way down towards turn 1 already, it's Vermac from Chris and Blue Frog sneaking up the inside for a look down at turn 2. Region on his tail here. It could be an explosive start to round 14. Vermac defending down into Crowthorns. You can see already contact between the two Fords. Region goes towards the inside. Blue Frog makes contact there with the Aston Martin of VSR Chris. Blue Frog up to second, Chris down to third. What a start already that has turned out to be. Wishful Winnings looks to pick up third here, but he's got Antion for company on his way down towards Sunset Curve. Abox in serious trouble there. Hin Pappy gets a hit up the backside by Regent's Mustang. And the number 32 appears to be in some trouble there down the line. Getting a look here, the 32 of VSR Smiler, one of the bronze competitors, having a bad start as he heads around turn 6. VSR Chris then drops down to third from second. The Mustang of Blue Frog up a position then from the race start. Wishful Winnings gunning for third, but right now has very present company of Antion on his tail. Otzi hanging around there, and Grizz has caught right up to his adversary there in the silver category. One of the most poignant starts of all, though, has been White Doctor. Started in 16th and has split the crowd in less than half a lap. Can you believe a start like that? That is the makings of a champion right there, to just come through the crowd, hide in the shadows here, and make your way to 8th position, surfing the absolute bedlam of the lap 1 chaos here in Kyalami. He has made light work of that. Into cheaters we go then. Already gaining on VSR Grizz. The yellow flags are out. Who is that? It's VSR Chris in trouble. So the yellow flags fly out through cheater. The first victim is the number 28. Started this race in second, fell down to third, now plumb last. With a seriously damaged Aston Martin, Tommy Johansson gets the leg up on him, but you can see the state of affairs there on the 28. Chris can barely get the car angled right into the pit lane. It's disaster for the 28. That looks to be a very early end of his race there. He's returned to the pit lane. So on board with Tyler Vermac now leads the charge away from the Blue Frog. Wishful Winnings having moved up onto the podium. It's Aston from Ford versus Ferrari for that podium. The battle of the front engine cars, and we spoke about this, the front engine cars may be struggling a little bit for overall pace, and they'll be struggling ever more so for understeer. But we've been proven absolutely incorrect there by just the metric of the start we've seen today. Wishful Winnings is right now on the back of that podium and losing time to the front engine car behind him and in front of him, as a matter of fact, as the Fords seem to surround that Ferrari on all sides. Right now, we're watching then from the perspective of Wishful Winnings in the gold category as he looks to currently fend for third on his way down towards Mineshaft. Now, this is a serious overtaking opportunity coming up here. If you can line it up ever so perfectly on your way down to Crocodiles, sometimes you can have a proper good look up the inside, but it was just too far away to make anything stick. You can see in the background as well, Grizz under siege for 6th by a White Doctor. What an interesting start indeed then. 4 minutes in and already a major off for one of the front runners. VSR Chris currently still in the pit lane. Wishful Winnings then having to try and cut the toe off of Antion and Otzi, now in a bit of a slipstream train between McLaren, Ford and Ferrari on our way through the kink at turn 1 down towards turn 2 as we go up the order as well. You can see the gap starting to narrow between the leading Aston and the trailing Mustang. Well, the Ferrari, though, he's got his own battles to fight here. You can see right behind him, Antion and Otzi are really getting into it here. So let's have a look on board with those two. You see quickly down the order as Abok manages to get up and ahead of Hin Pappy, Shawnee Mack and Jaco 14. Hin Pappy finds himself estranged here. He's the only reserve category driver left in it. The 777 finds himself stuck in between the battle for bronze and up ahead there, the battle for silver. Blue Frog then second, still trailing the leading Aston, but let's get on board then with a fight for 4th position. From the perspective of the defending car, it's VSR Antion in silver. Down through the S's we go then. You're really bunching up behind at the moment. Grizz already having been taken over for position there by White Doctor. You can see the Aston looming just around the corner on the entry of Lurkop as we watch our pair here for the fight for fourth go down in a mine shaft. White Doctor just looming in the background like a reaper there. The number 7's in trouble now, so yellow flags are out as we speak. The number 7 in trouble. And it appears to be back running, but I believe there may have been an issue after Clubhouse Corner. The number 7 currently bringing out the white flags. We're back in the green flag conditions for the time being on our way to Ingwe Curve. Still watching that fight for fourth. Up ahead, you can see Vermac and Blue Frog. That is a gap getting closer and closer and closer with every progressing lap. We may have to cut over to that in a moment's time. Still watching that fight for fourth then. Antion v Otzi. Last season's silver champion versus a silver champion to be. Actually, yeah, never mind. That's last season's bronze champion versus last season's silver champion. That's my mistake there. Otzi gunning for his second consecutive silver. Originally, there were rumors that Otzi was just going to plain give the silver championship to Grizz, perhaps to save his own skin from having to move up into gold, as 2 consecutive silver championships would raise many an eyebrow at the steward's office. But he seems to be gunning for this with all teeth bared and all cylinders firing. So fair play to him. He's not pulling any punches coming into round 14. White Doctor, you can see, is closing in fast. These two, not only are they going to have to focus on each other, they're going to have to focus on the looming and almost unstoppable threat bearing down on them on the exit of the S's. They head into Lurkop. Otzi gets ever closer to the back end of Antion's Mustang. You can see that the McLaren is just so much more confident under the brakes down into that hairpin. Watching over the rear wing of the Mustang on our way through Crocodiles. V8 versus V8 versus V8. You can see the Aston Martin is closing in at a rate of knots there through Crocodiles. Otzi, all the meanwhile, is eyeing up a move to fourth. Out through Cheetah Curve. No trouble between the three there on their way down towards Ingwe. You're already seeing one car be claimed victim this race. And that was the number 28 of VSR Chris. The Aston Martin's still in the pit lane. That is functionally, by the looks of it, a DNF. I think he will try and get it to the line, but he'll be many, many laps down by the time he gets that car out of the pit lane. So nearly 10 minutes in. Right now it's Vermac from Blue Frog from Wishful Winnings. VSR Antion we're watching with at the moment is pulling away in his fight inside the top 5 here, as he's now found equal company not only in the hands of Otzi, but in the hands of White Doctor, who started 16th, is up 10 positions in less than 10 minutes. He's averaged out over a position a minute. That is a rate of knots there. The unstoppable force is set to meet the immovable object up front, being Tyler Vermac. So keep your eyes glued to the screen, because this is about to get nuclear. As already you can see Otzi being given serious grief there, only half a second away from him by the Aston Martin of White Doctor. It is now a 3-car fight for 4th position. Out through Lurkop then. Antion against Otzi. White Doctor still right with them. Catch up with these three in a moment's time just to get a gander here. Region now down in 8th position. It was a catastrophic start for the 420. He's been lucky to come out of that with only minimal damage, but you saw the contact up through the Juxgay sweep and then out through turn 4 at turn 5, sorry, at Barbecue on lap 1. He made side-on-side contact there with his fellow Ford of Blue Frog. Very nearly took the pair of them out of the race, but he suffered the worst of it. Now down in 8th position. Otzi, who's caught right in the middle there at the back of the top 5, has got not only an Aston bearing down on him, but he himself is trying to bear down on the Ford in front. So he's got quite the handful here in the opening 10 minutes. And bear in mind, still that championship to fight for. Grizz is only 2 positions away. Having a look at that silver parlay once again, just to give you the odds that we're playing against, the ideal result for him was P4 and Grizz to finish in P8. The way it stands at the moment, Grizz could clinch the silver championship just by staying close. It doesn't necessarily need to finish ahead if the margin is this fine. At this rate, it'll only be outscoring Grizz by upwards of about 4 to 5 points where they're placed at the moment. So this is going rather wrong in the opening 10 minutes, because Grizz has been able to keep his head low and out of trouble And right now, Oatsy's found himself in the worst possible position in-house. Not only has he got the stern defense of the Mustang in front of him, he's got the ruthless attack of the Aston Martin behind. So this is definitely not the best way for your day to begin for VSR Oatsy. You can see the door was left wide open for him to come and have a go on the inside, past the apex there at Lurkop. He's getting ever closer for the fight for fourth. Let's stay on board then with VSR Oatsy on our way down the mine shaft corner, turn 12, as we look to the fight for fourth. Perhaps just a little too far away to come and stage a move on the inside at Crocodiles. Antion covers him off past the apex, but the McLaren has just a little bit more oomph on the exit of turn 13, out through turn 14, now turn 15 at Cheetahs, down towards Ingwe at turn 16. That Aston Martin is right with him. He is on absolute rails in sector 3. One does wonder then, had White Doctor competed in qualifying, where exactly would he have placed? We saw how strong Aston Martin was in qualifying, courtesy of VSR Chris and Tyler Vermack, and Aston Martin 1 and 2. It was predicted at an Aston Martin 1, 2 and 3. This has really thrown a bit of an upset into the play, and he's almost mimicking last season's champion, Just Boris, especially in his endeavours at the Nürburgring. And there you can see exactly the problem for Oatsy, as now the pressure is getting to him. He is now having to think about the defensive fight for 5th position, because White Doctor is all over him like a bad habit. On the exit of Barbecue up towards Sunset, the first of our sort of 2 major back straight areas. On our way through Sunset, you can see the McLaren having a little bit more grip at the apex, the Aston Martin having a little better exit past the apex, giving it the full Sterling Moss. The front engine cars, yes, they are dealing with a little bit more understeer, but they've got so much more momentum to carry. Headstrong into 90% of the corners on this track, down through the S's, then we go. McLaren getting close, so we could be looking back again once more at the fight for 4th position as we head up towards Lurkop. Looking for the inside goes Oatsy, but he doesn't have enough room. Antion just out of reach. It's tantalizingly close, just enough to give him extra slipstream, but not enough to give him a look at the inside. He is properly stuck in the vacuum here. Now he's looking back towards the defensive fight for 5th. He holds the inside to try and deny White Doctor a move, but the Aston Martin says, no, thank you. I'll have a look at the late apex here at Crocodiles, and I'll be right with you by the time we get to Ingwe. Out through Cheetah we go then. And they're almost dead set through turn 15. No one driver seems to be gaining premier advantage at that section of the track. We can see right now Wishful Winnings and Blue Frog are getting closer to one another. There will be the discussion very soon then of that fight for 2nd place. Right now we're still watching what is fundamentally that fight for 4th position. More realistically, in the case of Oatsy, with the defense on display by the leading Mustang of this 3-car fight, it appears to be more functionally that fight for 5th, because Aston Martin's White Doctor is not letting go. You see Regent slowly peeling into frame there. He's up and ahead of Grizz, and now up into 7th on what is the slow recovery drive here after a bad start. We're starting inside that top 5, is not too far away from having a go at that top 5, especially with just under a quarter of the race covered and that pit stop still yet to serve. That'll be in around 17 minutes time. We'll be realistically expecting those pit strategies to play out. This could make or break 90% of the performances here in Kyalami. It is not an easy track to strategize for. This is a track almost expressly designed to kill tires off. Drivers really do tend to struggle here for tyre longevity, as we've seen before. You can easily get the back end to swing away. We've seen races come apart at the seams in our time covering Kyalami, because it is not a particularly forgiving track on those Pirellis. We're now back more, though, into the fight for 4th position as he gains on Antion, but then looking back into that fight for 5th as we keep flip-flopping between the 2 states of affairs. Oatsy once again holds the inside at Crocodiles. White Doctor was going to try for around the outside. You can see him scoping things up for a late apex. He knows that the McLaren will have parked the bus there on the inside on the apex. So I must say, for as high pressure an environment this is, you got to respect the commitment here by Oatsy, because under certain conditions like this, it wouldn't be unrealistic to see plenty of drivers crack under the pressure. But he has been an incredibly tough cookie to crack in this race. Just before the quarter of an hour mark here, we are still seeing a rip-roaring fight for 4th position. Antion can't breathe any sighs of relaxation here, because the moment he does, he'll be bared down on by the twin British machines here, the McLaren and the Aston, hounding him for that 4th position. Up through Barbecue then at turn 5, my mistake there. To discuss as well, the gap right now between the 23 and the 61 sits at around 9/10 of a second. There is still that imminent threat of a fight for 2nd. Blue Frog will have to start scoping up how he defends from the more nimble Ferrari 296 of Wishful Winnings. Right now, Otzi may have his opportunity to fight for fourth because Antion had a little bit of a blinder there up through Sunset and Clubhouse. He's ever closer as we head down into the S's. We know this isn't the strongest section for the Mustang. So who is the braver one on the brakes here for the fight for fourth? On our way up towards Le Cop at turn 10. It could be a look at the inside for the McLaren. You can see he does go for it. The Mustang gives him space at the apex. Now the Mustang will have a little bit of a better exit. The McLaren staying absolutely right with him. It's still side by side. He'll have to tuck just back in behind the bright pink number 01 Mustang of VSR Antion there. That was a very good go of it. Sadly, no replacement for displacement. That Mustang has almost everyone pitched for straight line speed here in Kyalami. Heading down into the Crocodiles, wider of the two exits for turn 13, but he still links everything back up by the time we get to turn 15 here at Cheetah. A little bit of a bump there, a bit of a scare for White Doctor, who is still hanging on for dear life at in-grade curve. On the inside, Otzi has a very peculiar line of it. He tucks right back in to the backside of VSR Antion. You can see all of them trying to stay in the wake there of the bright pink Mustang, leading this three-car charge. White Doctor could be having a look here for the fight of fifth position as we head down into Crowthorns. It's Aston Martin versus McLaren on our way down towards turn 2, and White Doctor has it pitched on the inside. So now, realistically, we're going to have to try and catch on board as Otzi has now been forced into a really uncomfortable situation. He's pushed ever closer to his championship rival. The VSR Grizzlies only 2 positions away. Numerically, looks to be taking the championship just by staying nearby. The number 71 is in trouble and yellow flags do fly. Now, this is out of Cheetah curve, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if we can catch the 71 here. It's Tommy Johansson. That makes our second Aston Martin today to be caught out. And it looks like more than just the crash that has caught Johansson here. Something is amiss with the engine. He's limping his way into the pit lane. Green flags will be back out now that he is clear of the track. But what on earth went on for the number 71? Wishful winnings, you can quickly see here, is bearing down on the Blue Frog, but the more important subject inside that top 5 is now what is going on in the changed state of affairs for Antion. He was confidently leading that 3-car fight for fourth, but now has got quite the tough customer on his tail. White Doctor is hunting him down. A man on a mission today. You really got to hand it to him there. He is gunning for a very easy look of driver of the day. Tyler Vermack has led this to perfection in the opening quarter hour here in Kyalami, but you really cannot take away a grit-filled performance like that by White Doctor. Out through turn 16 we go then. Right now in the fight for fourth position, Aston Martin versus Ford. Former benefactors of the Aston Martin Lagonda Company, the Ford Motor Company, all the way through the 2000s, but now they stand on their own 2 feet as independents to the Ford Motor Company. White Doctor then, we're on board with him. The number 54, the championship leader, potentially the season 8 champion to be, has been on the warpath all race long, and we're not even at the halfway mark here. One can only imagine what is going on behind the wheel. Only 3/10 of a second. V8 versus V8 here. AMG's M177 4-litre versus M Sports, and I mean Ford M Sport, not BMW M Sport, before anyone gets confused there. 5.4-litre naturally aspirated. Tommy Johansson finds himself in trouble again, this time out of turn 5, and that's the end of the line there. And White Doctor all the way into the gravel will lose that position out to Otzi. That is the first of any kind of major fault we've seen there for White Doctor over the course of this race. That is truly quite bizarre indeed. Down into the Crocodiles section of the track here. A little bit of desync. That does put a little bit of a pit in the stomach of most of the drivers here, especially after what went on back in Barcelona. And there have already been the fears. You can see just how bad the ping's getting here. There have already been the imminent fears of mass disconnects here. G-Portal once again screwing over the endeavours of a championship's final round. Not the first time we've seen it. Sadly, won't be the last time we see it either. Checking around the field, Smiler and Shawnee Mack at the back of our top 10 here. The 2 bronze drivers, number 4 and number 32. Just past the 20-minute mark. Tyler Vermack now leading this race by 3.5 seconds near abouts to Blue Frog in the number 61 Mustang. Wishful Winnings rounds out the podium and is chasing down that Mustang. You can see he's been maintaining a 1.5 second gap for the last couple of laps here. Is looking to gun for second. Whether or not he'll strike before or after his pit stop is another question entirely. We're 20 minutes into the session and things are still ramping up. VSR Abok and GTR Twiglet look to get side by side in a moment's time here. One of the contenders for the Bronze Championship sliding his way round turn 5 at Barbecue. Right now, the fight for 13th. Watching from the perspective here of VSR Abok. Holding off that Mercedes. A very rare sight indeed. Twiglet managing to make it to this last round of the championship. The number 96, an incredibly rare sight on this field. Last season competed with Lexus. This season competes with Mercedes. Right now, studying where everyone is on track. You can see 11th, 12th and 13th. VSR Smiler is still leading the charge and is on track to take the Bronze Championship. Will be first in line then for promotions up into Silver by the end of the season. And coming into Season 9 with the introduction of the Platinum category, you could even see a top-end Silver promotion, even eyeing up a potential future in the Gold category. With that massive wave of promotions coming in, this is going to make for a very interesting change in the balance here in VSR Phoenix. Abok taking the inside line, but has a wider exit, and that's inviting Twiglet back into the charge here from 14th position. Mercedes versus Ferrari, wide out of Cheetah, down towards Ingwe. He's going to have to try and hold the inside, but the Mercedes all the way around the outside is going to have a slightly better run of things. A little stab of oversteer. You can see over the rear spoiler of that Ferrari. Beaming down on him is the Mercedes and the incredibly large front grille that it has in the 2020 model. Out past the kink then to Crowthorns at turn 2, and it seems all but secured for GTR Twiglet on the grounds. You can get the brakes pinned in time. Could it be a late apex by Abok? No. As it turns out, not this time around. Checking in then with our top 5. Antion is still running scared here from the pair of Otzi and White Doctor. And whilst we're on the subject, Region has caught up to White Doctor and Otzi in what looks to be a tantalizing fight on our hands for the top 5. White Doctor having another wide run, but this time on entrance and tucking things in at the exit at Le Cop. That turns 10 and 11. Watching from Regent's perspective, he chases the pair down towards Crocodiles here, out through Mineshaft at turn 12. 38 minutes in, so we are but moments away then, a couple laps give or take from the start of our pit stop strategies. Only one mandated pit stop on these standard formation races. Watching with Region, he's got first in-house seats here, front row tickets to the fight for 5th. So let's stay on board with him as he spectates the fight for the top 5. Down towards Crowthorns we go. You can see the Aston Martin holding off. He knows the McLaren's going to hold the inside line. He can have attack him up through the Juxgay sweep. He knows that Otzi is going to play this a lot more defensively because he has a lot to lose in missing these positions out. He wants to keep as wide a buffer as possible between himself and Grizz. Sadly, just can't find the pace at this time to catch up to the pink Mustang just at the end of this back straight. That being Antion in the number 01. See, almost the tinges there of a bit of understeer, dare I say. Getting a look at that on the replay. Let's just see if we can get a gander here. Now, this is what I want to talk about. We're keeping a live track on the footage there for the battle of the top 5. You can see, sticking in the dirty air, that Aston Martin, yes, there, is noticeably suffering aero stall on the nose. The longer it stays behind the McLaren, the longer it is subject to suffer. And right now, this is exactly what Otzi wants, but he's gone incredibly wide at Lurkop at turn 10. So Regent and White Doctor are going to have a go at this here. This is incredible front row seats we've got, courtesy of the 420 Mustang, down through the Mineshaft corner, turn 12. It's Aston Martin out in front. What can Otzi do? He can only tuck in and defend from the approaching Ford. I must say, it was clinical precision by White Doctor, but he's got a little bit loose there at Crocodiles. Then into Cheetahs. It is practically a train of cars on our way through turn 15, down towards Ingwe at turn 16. It's incredibly close between the Ford and the McLaren. Regent is just... he's playing things safe. He's playing things patiently. This is where he's got the best opportunity to come and strike at the heart of McLaren here for the fight of what I would say is more functionally the fight for 6th position as we speak here between Otzi and Regent. Gunning for the inside at Crowthorns. Minor contact between the pair of them. as they exit there. That's a little bit, I don't know. I think Otzi won't be particularly happy with that. He'll view that as a bit of a bump and run. But this is the worst case scenario for Otzi, because as it stands, Grizz looks to clinch the championship by only being a single position away. He needs to clear the margin by 9 points. Right now, as it stands, it just won't be enough. 35 minutes left to go. Otzi's going to have to get creative here if he means to force a buffer between himself and the 44 Audi. Has Grizz just done enough then at the final run of the championship to secure silver? Only time will tell you. 35 minutes left to go then. What a race it has been thus far. Regent then, our most recent move, up to 6th there, much to the chagrin of the number 6 of VSR Otzi. Last season's silver champion may not be going back-to-back then. White Doctor, you can see up in the top 5, has now made himself the absolute nightmare of Tyler Vermaak, who thought he was on hopeful ground here, not only to take a win at home, but to take the championship on his home soil here in Midrand. Right now, with White Doctor in that top 5, it will still go the direction of the 54. The 835 will still finish the championship in second on thoughts of what could have been. Regent takes the jump for the pit lane. The first of our pit stop runners then. A very bizarre strategy indeed. Wishful Winnings also in the pit lane as well. Early pit stop runs by Ford and Ferrari. Now, we saw both of those drivers did get their hands full on the race start, so it's not out of the realm of possibility to suggest that their tyres have been cooked out. Otzi now is not in a particularly happy position on track. He's, yes, up into the top 5, but too close to his championship rival, too close for comfort, and also subject to several undercut strategies. It is nightmare scenarios here for McLaren inside that top 10. You also see here Shawnee Mack having carved his way into the top 10. He's ahead of Jayco and Twiglet. Must say, what a turnaround it's been. From where he was at the last rows of the field back in Watkins Glen, in fact causing trouble for the leading Lambos of OSR Saturn and Just Boris. It was a more controversial entry than most for the number 4 of Shawnee Mack, but now, as you can see, is not only among the cars leading bronze here in this round, sadly is without his chance to fight for the bronze championship. He's numerically within his chances, but it would take an absolute miracle here to push him to the same margins that have governed the other top 3 cars. I must say, what a remarkable turnaround. Do expect to see this one, if he does join us from the bronze category in Season 9, to fight tooth and nail for that championship. He has done his homework there, and really, that is quite a turnaround story indeed. Very well done to him. Boy Shea is back in the session somehow, and I believe he started this session last, and then suffered a disconnect, though somehow, and I have honestly no idea how, I couldn't explain to you how, is in 13th. He's not laps down and last like we thought he'd be. Unless I was just imagining that disconnect, I couldn't tell you. White Doctor then into the pit lane from 5th. What a first stint that's been for him there. Started 16th, up 11 positions from race start. Right now has done everything he needs to, but we know the kind of driver that he is. We know this is a driver of ruthless ambition, boundless ambition, dare I say. So that second stint, expect it to get even spicier, because we have not seen 100% out of that Aston today, but we have seen what looks to be very much so 110% from Tyler Vermaak, who has led every lap of this race. He's qualified on pole. He is gunning for not only a Grand Slam, but his first win in the championship since last season at Bathurst with Ferrari. So this is a long time coming for Tyler Vermaak. This is a long, long time coming. Checking in with the 420 as well. We can see he's incredibly close at the moment to Boy Shea. He's just got the leg up on him there. Having took his first and only pit stop, he is now only 15 seconds away from White Doctor and Wishful Winnings up the order there, who will look to be retaking the top 5 positions after our first wave, our first and only wave, I should say, of pit stops. Otzi now in 4th. Vermaak leading. Blue Frog in 2nd. Antion 3rd. We do know that Wishful Winnings was in 3rd before his pit stop there, so it looks to be reclaiming that after our top 10 take their pit stops, but we have genuinely no idea when that could be. Normally, you tend to see, as you can see here, most of the pit stops come in at around the dead middle mark of this race. Some go earlier, some go later. We've seen some extraordinary strategies over the course of the season. Some work, some don't. Really, we just don't know what's going to happen this time around. Shawnee Mack and Jayco look to be getting into arms about it, though, for the control of 7th place. That could be 6th in a moment's time with Otzi in the pit lane. 2 bronze fighters then as we go down into Cheetah. At turn 15, let's get on board then with Shawnee Mack. As you can see, Jayco dives for the pit lane. Shawnee Mack will stay out, so no battle on the horizon then. This is a strategy fight for bronze's lead. Boy Shea running into some trouble there out through turn 10. Not the only car to be caught out today's race. You see GTR Twiglet now up into the top 10 as well, following on his trails. VSR Abok also gunning for the bronze championship. Twiglet just happy to be here. Grizz at the moment in 4th.
We are at the halfway mark, still a long way to go.
As you heard there, the halfway mark has been hit. So as we look here, halfway into today's race, it's Tyler Vermack leading with the fastest time, having qualified from pole and led every single lap, is gunning for a Grand Slam at home. Blue Frog in 2nd after a fantastic start, is leading the charge for the Blue Oval. His fellow Ford Mustang VSR Antion currently in 3rd, though that could be split by the strategy of Wishful Winnings and the number 23 Ferrari currently down in 9th position. Our top 8 have yet to pit. Boy Shea is in the pit lane, meaning only 8 cars left to take their pit stops, and among them already is Blue Frog. Into the pit lane he goes. Is this the Requiem now for Ford? You can see Antion's into the pits as well. Both Fords now in. All of the Fords having now entered the pit lane at one point in this race. You can see what appears to be a wave of... I'm trying to see if I'm picking this up correctly there. That was quite a few disconnects we've just witnessed. Trying to see exactly who that took with. But that isn't good. I know a disconnect wave when I see one. And that is definitely leaving quite a pit in my stomach. This was the worst case scenario for the VSR team coming into this round. We are told that if things do come to the worst, and we're just advising you ahead of time, if things do come to the worst, not saying they will, but if things do come to the worst, we have already been booked in for next Wednesday if we have to do a rerun of this race, which hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't have to do. Right now then, Shawnee Mack finds himself a long way from where he's used to being, as he actually finds himself up in 2nd after a long pit strategy there. He's yet to come into the pit lane. It makes only 3 cars left in this race to do so. Abok being the other one of them. You can see Wishful Winnings is hunting him down there. Getting a look through the field then after our pit stop wave. We're still yet to see the final 3 of them, but having a gander around, you can see in the background there was Antion running very wide out through turn 2 at Crowthorne. White Doctors in 6th, gunning for what appears to be a podium finish. And I must say, that is one of the most remarkable drives I think I've ever seen. That is on parallel, if not... I really don't know. Could you call that better than what we saw out of Just Boris? He had a phenomenal drive last season at the Nürburgring, much akin to what we're seeing right now. But White Doctor has been a man on a mission. You've really got to hand it to him there. This isn't taking away from just how well Tyler Vermack has performed over the course of this race. That 835 still leading the charge and doesn't look like it has any chance of slowing down. An unstoppable force here. This is the most fired up I think we've seen Vermack all season long. He's had some great qualifying sessions, and while they haven't pieced together into a race win as he would have intended it for in the last 11 weeks of racing, now might be better late than never for the 835. Good things come to those who wait, so in about 27 minutes time, we'll see exactly what that looks like. Shawnee Mack's into the pit lane. That puts Wishful Winnings up to 2nd in this race. Blue Frog there looks to inherit 3rd. White Doctor inherits 4th in this race. After that run of pit lane entries, the only driver left to do so then is our race leader, Tyler Vermack in the 835. Right now looks to be just far enough up the track, as I should say, to emerge ahead of Wishful Winnings, though I would say this is incredibly close to call. This looks like the best opportunity then in this race. 26 minutes left to go for the race leader to come into the pits, and he does so there. You can see Tyler Vermack arcs it to the left, and into the pit lane goes the 835. This is going to be an interesting spectacle, to say the least. Right now, heading down through turn 6 into turn 7 at Clubhouse is Wishful Winnings, our driver, leading the charge for our pit lane runners. in the 23. Could he be looking at picking up the race lead? Is it just too far away to call? Only time will tell, but he has had a very grand race here because he's found himself ahead of the Blue Frog over pit strategy. Blue Frog drops to third after an early pit lane run compared to Wishful Winnings. I must say, that has been very, very cheeky. Playing chess and not checkers there, the 23 to inherit second. White Doctor is on the warpath, make no mistake of it. Antion at the back of the top 5. Right now, having a gander just to quickly see, our silver fighters are still here. Otzi and Grizz are still in this fight. Our bronze fighters are still here. Albok, Smiler and Jaco are all in it. And our gold fighters, Vermac and Doctor, are still here. Wishful Winnings then is gunning out of turn 16, but Vermac is just leaving the pit lane, so he'll continue the next 25 minutes in the lead of round 14. Only a few more laps then, he's got to be saying to himself now, looking at about 18 or so more laps here around Kyalami before his first win this season and his first win in over a season. And what a way to close out the chapter here. This is Tyler Vermac's last race in VSR Phoenix, so I'm told. He will be moving on to other pastures after Season 8. He spent 2 seasons here in this championship, picked up a race win already in Bathurst, as we mentioned before, in his time with Ferrari, and looks to be closing a page out here with Aston Martin. So heading down to turn 12. Vermac leads, Wishful in second, Blue Frog third, White Doctor just round the corner by 2.7 seconds on the last gates there is in fourth. Antion in the top 5, Regent in 6th, Otzi 7th, Hin Pappy 8th, Grizz 9th, Smiler 10th, Jaco 14 in 11th, Shawnee Mac 12th, and Abok in 13th, Boyshay in 14th. A few disconnects there, among them was GTR Twiglet, who's now chiming into the chat that saying, and I quote, "This season has been painful. My worst ever season. Glad I can put the Merc in the bin." And it was characteristically a bit of a turn in the wrong direction on his move over to Mercedes. You could see that present in the fact he had a lot less confidence than he did in the Lexus. And he also crashed. Out through turn 4, then to turn 5. Wishful Winnings only 7 seconds away from the leading Aston Martin. I must say, he has definitely had a very spot-on race today. Started inside that top 5, has worked his way to the front row, and he's 6.7 seconds away. So you've really got to hand it to him there. He has played his cards to a T. It has been expert tacticianry by Wishful Winnings in the closing chapter of Season 8. Bravo, I say, bravo. 4 seconds away from him then is Blue Frog, and only 2.5 seconds away from him is White Doctor inside that top 4. It is razor thin here in the closing 22 minutes of racing. But who comes out on top? And there's still 3 championships to decide, 4 if you count the overall, which functionally is gold. Right now, Vermac's just too close to White Doctor to snatch away Season 8's championship. But boy, if he didn't give it a very good go today, on the performance he's been on, you really got to hand it to him there. Abok finds himself on the back foot for the bronze championship. Right now, leading the charge is Smiler, and he'll be looking to clinch it if he can finish where he is right now, ahead of both Jaco and Abok by the end of this race. 21 minutes, 45 seconds thereabouts to decide 3 different division championships. Only one can be crowned the overall VSR champion. Having a look at the last couple of seasons then, from Season 1 all the way to where we are in the current day. Starting things off, that opening season was won by VSR Pete, now known as Audi Pete on the grid. VSR Funky Fish in the 982 took the Season 2 championship title. VSR Chris is the only ever multiple-time VSR champion. He took Season 3 and Season 6 in the number 28. Fast Fanatical took Season 4. ETE Giles took Season 5. And as we saw here on TRTN, Season 7 went to the 999 of Just Boris on his debut to VSR. But a brand new champion is in the making. Boris has peeled away from the picture, and it has given White Doctor the best possible chance here for championship glory. If we can find him here on track right now, sitting in 4th position, scoping out a move to the podium. He has started from 16th in this race. He is up 12 positions through both pace, racing grit, and pit stop tacticianry, I should say. He has had a bar none 10 out of 10 race. I believe, looking back on it now, that could have been a deliberate effort to hold himself in the pits to not take a qualifying run. Whether or not that was issued by race control. Now, we don't have to hand right now as we're recording the full sheet of what went on at the end of Barcelona, though we'd love to know exactly what happened in round 13 in the last 11 minutes, which sadly we weren't able to cover because our internet service provider decided it had other ideas than providing us with 5G. So whether I believe that was deliberate, though, we've seen this is he's been mimicking a lot of what last season's champion has been up to. Whether he means to or not, these champions keep doing the same thing here. They love to toy with that front row, and White Doctor has proven right now, without a shadow of doubt, that he is championship material. To any naysayers of his performance, anyone who would have doubted the 54 over the course of the season, take one long hard look at the screen right now and tell me different, because this has been one of the greatest performances I think I may have ever seen. And it comes about once in a season, dare I say once in an entire league, to where you have bliss moments like this. He is still some moments away from a podium, admittedly. I think all of us would have expected him to go all the way from 16th to 1st in this race, but it seems just too far away then in the second stint. Had this been a longer race, I wouldn't have a doubt in my mind he would be challenging the front row by the time the checkered flags flew here in Kyalami. It is a matter of when and not if, I think, in most regards with this guy's performance, and really it is not hard to see, despite his sabbaticals on 2 separate occasions here, that accounts for 3 rounds, he missed out on a sprint in Valencia, that he has still led the championship, and very nearly, by the way, clinched it in the last round, which it would have been an incredible shame to miss out on. 18.5 minutes then left to go. Let's not detract from the performance of the leading car at the moment. Tyler Vermack has waited all season for this. All the yellow flags are out at Cheetah. It's the 7 into the wall. That's Boy Shea. The second time that's happened to him in this race. So yellow flags are out. We're going to quickly check in here. The next car to try and make their way into that section is VSR Antion, but I believe he's just away from trouble there. Boy Shea looks to be back out and running again. So fortunately back in the green flag conditions in the next 18 minutes of racing. Hopefully nothing like that happens again. Fingers crossed. It's Mustang then at the back of the top 5. I must say all Fords inside the top 10. Ford won't be going hungry here for points at the end of this round. 17 minutes left to go. It is dropping away at rapid pace now. The time left, not only in this race, but in this championship. 3 different divisions hang in the balance here. 1 overall championship hangs right before the very eyes of this driver here in the 54. That being White Doctor. Is he looking to navigate the traffic here? The number 7 of Boy Shea after his incident down at turn 15. Right now then, blue flags are shown for the number 7. He's got to try and get out of the way here, the 54, if he thinks that he can't hold him off. On our way around Le Cop. You can see there holding the inside. If the cameras could actually hurry up and catch them. Holding the inside there, letting White Doctor get past was Boy Shea after being shown the blue flags. White Doctor now only 1.5 seconds away from the blue frog. So that is definitely something to consider here in the next 16.5 minutes is when will that fight kick off? Not if, but when, because you've seen the pace already on display by White Doctor, and Blue Frog as well has not been a slouch himself. He has had a phenomenal race, but in that last lap he was nearly a second slower. So he is being reeled in here, whether he means to or not. He has bit the hook and is being reeled in by that Aston Martin. Just quickly having a gander as well around the track. We cut away from White Doctor. As we just quickly see here, Tyler Vermack on his way to turn 7, leading by a confident 7.5 seconds in this race. He has been unstoppable. What a way to close out his career here in VSR, taking home what looks to be a Grand Slam victory. As he has not lost a single lap, I believe, over the course of this race. So very well, fair play to him. Let's see where that pans out in the next 15.5 minutes. We want to try and catch, as we saw here, 1.1 seconds right now between Hin Pappy from the reserve category and VSR Grizz, one of our championship contenders, potential champion to be in silver. Must say, what a striking livery. It's, you know what, it reminds me of a little bit. I'm pretty sure this has to be intentional at this rate. He just didn't want to go with the Lamborghini. But if any of you remember back in the older days of YouTube, right around when KSI first started taking off, he had his Aventador, his chrome purple one with that reddish orange Tron outline. Remember that was a big trend in the early 2010s. Was putting Tron lines on your car. Very popular with Lamborghinis because they were super angular. I don't know why, it's just that color combination, it reminds me of it quite a lot there. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm awfully nostalgic for that era. And it is also quite a good looking color there to put on a Ferrari, dare I say. I mean, I'm normally quite a traditionalist when it comes to Ferrari, only red or yellow, but I'll be surprised if it ain't warming up to me there, the concept of a purple Ferrari. Looking around the field then to see where our next fights are coming from. Antion and Regent, the twin Mustangs there at the back of the top 5, separated by just under 4 seconds. Doesn't look like any imminent threat of some side-by-side chicanery between the pair before the end of this race. For the better, some can make the argument. The Mustangs have definitely been a bit handsy on the opening couple of laps in this round. Grizz at the moment is just doing what he can here. He knows pound for pound, he's not got the same pace that Oatsy's brought to the table with McLaren. He knows the Audi hasn't been the best machine, but he's definitely took quite the gamble and ran with it. You've really got a hats off to him there. You've got to hand it to him. That was a bold choice by most stretches of the imagination. Even when they released that second generation LMS Evo, it still wasn't that grand. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It wasn't a popular choice when it was in the game. It wasn't a popular choice when they started dropping Evos for it. But I'll be damned if Grizz hasn't shown the better side of Audi's last supercar. It is bizarre to think, really, little shreds of that rallying DNA exist within the R8s. It wouldn't exist had it not been for the Quattro. And it is really the last possible descendant of the Audi Quattro. .2 litre V10. We'll never hear that again, sadly. Or a new one like it. Lamborghini's moved on to a twin-turbo V8 hybrid, and in their Temerario road car, that'll be just a standard twin-turbo V8 by the time they get to GT3, and Audi discontinued their customer program. They're moving more into the world of electric cars. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the RS e-tron GT. I think it's a rather stand-up car. Not a huge fan of electric cars, but there are a few outliers to that rule. I think there's always something good to be found in even the bad things, but I'll be damned if I say I'm not going to miss this car. Grizz won't. He has already been quite outspoken of the fact that he hates this machine. But boy, if it wasn't a special time when Audi was still making those. It's a bit rich of me to be awfully nostalgic for a car that was discontinued, what, 2 years ago? Never mind then. Back on to the discussion of the race at hand with 12 minutes left to go. Here is the current race standings. Tyler Vermack has led every lap. He has qualified on pole. He has gone uncontested and is now nearly 2 figures up the road. It is a grand slam on the horizon here for Tyler Vermack. His benefactors at Malwa and K1 Esports will be beaming ear to ear to see something like this on display. This is some proper white knuckle performance by Vermack in that Aston Martin. Wishful Winnings finds himself in second at the moment, and with the imminent threat yonder the horizon of these two bearing down on him, that is getting closer and closer with every progressing lap. Blue Frog in third. White Doctor closing in from fourth. Antion just a little too far away at the moment, but fair enough. He has got the Mustang of Regent for company in the fight for the last of those top 5 positions in the next 11 minutes of racing. Otzi is in 7th, and sadly, by the looks of it, should they finish where they are, 7th from 9th, it won't be enough to equalise the gap. He needs to make 10 points up ahead of Grizz, which he just won't be able to do from where he's standing, and will sadly miss out on a consecutive silver championship. Last season's silver champion was gunning for 2 on the trot. Doesn't appear to be, right now as we speak, in his hands anymore. Hin Hin Pappy finds himself caught up in the sort of latter half there of that top 10 from the reserve category. And fair play to him, he's not an often visitor to Season 8, but every time he has showed up, he has knocked out some fairly solid results. And this is no exemption. He has been driving that Ferrari like he stole it, and really, you got a hats off to him there. It is not an easy feat to come back into a championship so distant from it for the longest time, and then make your way to the top 10 at a track like Kyalami. That does take some guts. Right now, Grizz in 9th, from where he's standing, is doing just enough to secure the silver championship. Smiler then leading the charge for the bronze drivers, and now looks to be, from where he stands, if he finishes in this position ahead of Jaco, ahead of Abok, and ahead of Shawnee in the next 10 minutes, the bronze division champion. He'll be moving up to silver then come season 9. Jaco in 11th, Shawnee Mack in 12th, Abok 13th, and Boy Shay in 14th position. Actually make that 4 DNFs over the course of today's race. 9 minutes, 35 seconds left to go. And let's get on board here. The imminent proceedings here for the fight of second place. Wishful Winnings has found himself inadvertently in the iron sights of the Blue Frog. The number 61 is bearing down on him here. Quite the daunting sight. He's waited a long time to reclaim the second place mantle of this race. He got cheeky with the pit strategies. Wishful Winnings caught him by the tail, but the Mustang has had absolutely enough of it, and we're about to see the fight between the 2 horses here. The Prancing Horse versus the Charging Mustang on our way through turn 6 at sunset. On our way to turn 7, the fight for second on our hands right now. 9 minutes left to go. Functionally speaking, around 7, maybe 8 laps at a push. I'd say more realistically 7 laps before the checkered flag. It's all or nothing. All of this pushing and shoving will invite White Doctor in. If he can make it to the podium, it is nothing short of a legendary drive to secure the gold and then overall championship. Right now, Blue Frog has the world on his shoulders to retake second position. He has had a fantastic performance here in Kyalami. Had a great start, elevated that to a great middle half, but got caught out for strategy against Wishful Winnings in the number 23 Ferrari ahead. But this could be his opportunity to take revenge. Down through Ingwe. Right now, those 3 separated by just about 2 seconds from front to back. Fastest of the 3 was White Doctor by only about 1/10 of a second there to the time of Wishful Winnings leading that charge. Blue Frog finds himself in the middle, getting a little bit of free slipstream, but runs it wide through Crowthorns, then to the Juxgay sweep. Turns 3 and 4 is right on the tail of Wishful Winnings. It's all or nothing now, because not only is third up for grabs, it could even be second. With 7.5 minutes left to go, we really don't know. Is that gap able to be closed? A 12.5 second gap seems just too far away. If White Doctor can get out in front of these 2, that is not going to be an easy task. This is all or nothing now in the gold category. Down through the S's, you can see the struggle there between both the Ferrari and the Ford. Just clawing the asphalt for grip. They just can't find anything in the searing heat here. The track's still north of 30 degrees. It is searing those tires to a nice medium rare. They are really struggling to find any more grip than the car allow. Out through turn 12 then. High commitment on their run into turn 13, hugging the left-hand side of the track as they go barreling down into turn 13 and 14 at the Crocodiles. You can see where the Aston Martin takes a little bit of a wider entry, but it capitalizes tenfold by having a great run there through turn 15 to catch up by turn 16. What does he gain for his efforts? A net gain of about 2, maybe 0.3 of a second in that sector alone. On his run to the line then, fastest of the three by 0.6 of a second was White Doctor, a 1:42.015 to a 1:42.602 by Blue Frog ahead of him. This could get unimaginably spicy. So let's get on board then with the car in third. Not in third, sorry, in fourth position, my mistake. Let's get on board with the driver with the hardest job in this fight here. If we can find him. Where is White Doctor? He's got front row tickets here to the fight for second. He himself will be actively involved in that in a moment's time. You can see nearly side by side between Wishful Winnings and the Blue Frog. Going for the inside there, dare I say. At Clubhouse, he has done that remarkably well. Get a gander at that move on the replay. We only just caught the trailing end of that, but that was brilliant. I'm actually going to catch on board with the Blue Frog, who now leads the charge. Actually, as we enter Lure Cop, it was side by side with Wishful Winnings, but what a move that was there for Blue Frog to come up into second place. And now this is absolutely nuclear hot here between these three. There is barely any distance to divide them on the last 5 minutes of this race. Must I say any more? It has been a brutal performance in that top five. Unbelievable stuff. What a way to close out 11 weeks of racing, and a big slide by the Blue Frog, and he holds it. How on earth do you find enough pace on a lap in, lap out, to go full hell for leather there, driving it like Ken Miles did back in the 60s? Absolutely raw from the Ford. Blue Frog then defending second on the approaching tide of both Aston Martin and Ferrari, firing on all cylinders. That V6 in the middle there, that Ferrari is no slouch whatsoever. Did leave himself wide open, very little left that he could have done at that time to hold the position for his own. Blue Frog really caught him with his trousers down through turn 6 into turn 7. That was a last second decision, and it's brilliant by the pair of them. They were able to leave the space, as that otherwise would have been quite a nasty shunt between the pair. It was so fine, that gap. White Doctor now right behind Wishful Winnings. Blue Frog still leading the charge from second position. You can see Wishful Winnings gets all out of shape there on the exit of Clubhouse, but fortunately by the time he hits the S's, he's still ahead of White Doctor. We'll be getting on board, though, with White Doctor. You see here the two Mustangs are now fighting. That'll be another topic of discussion here in the closing minutes of this race. Can we catch on board with Wishful Winnings, as White Doctor is now up and ahead of him, but Wishful Winnings is fighting him back through turn 11. Absolutely magnificent stuff then in the fight for third. Wishful Winnings versus White Doctor, all for the last of those podium positions. White Doctor runs it the long way around. Could Wishful come and have a look at the inside? Absolutely. On his way down towards Crocodiles. This is fantastic stuff in the last minutes of this race. But White Doctor seems to have things nipped in there for third. Can Wishful Winnings stage a comeback here in the next 3 minutes? Honestly, does anyone know? That is absolutely brutal stuff then between those three. Bravo for White Doctor up onto the podium, and also bravo for the drivers around him, Blue Frog and Wishful Winnings, for their fantastic starts to this race. But 2.5 minutes left to go. We are among the final laps here in Kyalami, and the final laps of Season 8. 3 champions to crown. This is going to be interesting, as right now White Doctor's up 13 positions from race start. Wishful Winnings and Blue Frog have both seen net gains since the first lap. Let's get on board then with the next battle on our minds, and we saw it was between the two Mustangs. We caught them right at the flashpoint. They were side by side on the start of the run into the Juxgay sweep on the exit of Crowthorns. Regent versus Antion, Mustang versus Mustang. This could get very spicy indeed. On our way to turn 6 we go then. Sunset gives rise to Clubhouse. It'll be a sharp snap over from the left hand to the right hand side of the track. Regent tries to close for the inside, tucks back in, though. You could see there was the subtle hints there that he was looking for a move towards the inside. Normally, if you can clinch a better exit here on the exit of turn 7, you can line things up just neatly enough for a fight up through the S's and over towards Lure Cop. You can see that's exactly what Regent's doing at the moment. He has definitely drove the brakes off of that Mustang, but he is closing in on Antion. Quickly checking then what's going on with our top 3 battle. Blue Frog still in command there from second. We're looking at the fight then for 5th position from the perspective of VSR Antion. Defending 5th. The leader is on his last lap, so we will be catching up in a moment's time then with Tyler Vermack, who's on his way right now through the Juxgay sweep. We're among the final battles then of today's race, and what a way to close out Season 8. A tearful goodbye to the GT3s for a season, as we'll be going over to the Porsche 992 Cups for Season 9 of VSR Phoenix. But wow, if this isn't one of the greatest Twilight chapters for GT3 I have ever seen here on Assetto Corsa Competizione, I would be starved for words else. Down towards turn 2 we go then. Regent tries for the inside, but is covered off by VSR Antion. Keeping a very close eye to our maps at the moment. We are but mere moments away then. And pulling away the graphic as we prepare our proceedings onto that final lap. We're still looking, if you're watching on at the moment, the battle for the top 5 between Antion and Regent. Mustang versus Mustang on our way to turn 6. This could be the flashpoint of it, as Regent is closer than he's ever been in this fight before. Could he be looking for the inside? Antion is going to park it in the middle of the road, but Regent's up the inside at Clubhouse. Brilliant, brilliant stuff there between the pair, and they still hold their room. It's contact between the pair of them. Oh my word, it has all gone asunder. That has come apart at the seams. We'll be catching on board very shortly here with Tyler Vermack. And as a matter of fact, we'll have to pull away from this incident as down towards the line then, as he narrows his way down towards the line out of Ingray Curve. The race winner, the final round. Well, that's the calendar, my mistake there. The race winner of the final round of VSR Phoenix is Tyler Vermack, winning at home a Grand Slam by the South African talent. Wins in front of the home crowd. Unbelievable. But we're not done yet. Blue Frog to the line, and White Doctor has done just enough there to clinch not only the last of those podium positions, but if we catch on board with him here, White Doctor has become, and that's the and a loss for the buttons today. That was wishful, I was thinking of, but White Doctor has become the Season 8 champion. Your Gold Division champion lays before you there, the 54 wins Season 8 of VSR Phoenix. What a performance he has had in the last 11 weeks of racing. We're coming apart at the seams just to bring you the announcement, but what a season it has been for him. And we're not done yet, because crossing the line goes Otzi. Grizz has done, by the looks of the maths here, 7th and 9th means he's not gained 10 points. Otzi hasn't gained 10 points, I mean. So Grizz has done just about enough there as he barrels into the pit lane. At long, long last, the pangs of pure ecstasy to be rid of that Audi. But love it or lump it, VSR Grizz is your Season 8 Silver Division champion. Making his way to the line as we speak as well is your Bronze Division champion after clinching it in the last 2 rounds. VSR Smiler takes bronze. What a season that has been. Jaco brings it home for Division 2nd there. Division 3rd for VSR Abox. Shawnee Mack has had a remarkable season indeed. Sadly, not enough to challenge for the division title. But what a championship, really. We've been at a loss for those buttons. They're fumbling around the buttons to give you the announcements, but there, just to recollect the announcement here, your gold and overall Season 8 champion, the number 54 of White Doctor, started 16th, finished 3rd. Tyler Vermack will take home 2nd in the championship after a brilliant performance today and his first win in over a season. At home, a Grand Slam. Otzi won silver, I'm being told here by Twiglet. Now, hang on just a moment. Let's see if we can bring up the silver parlay. Otzi had to clear the margin by 10 points. Now, if we bring up the numbers on this, let me just run the numbers for you real quick, just so that we've got everything up to date. Otzi finished in 7th position. Grizz finished in 9th. Grizz was leading the charge by 9 points, according to what we were given the information on. So let's just quickly run those numbers for you. The points margin, 7th place, would have given Otzi a grand total of 30 additional points to his current tally. 9th position for Grizz would have only given him 26, meaning that Otzi only gained 4 points on his charge towards the lead of the championship. He had to clear 10 points to be ahead by 1. So if I'm not mistaken there, that is still in Grizz's favour. We ran the numbers on this. We wanted to make damn certain that we were getting things correctly here. We would not want to mistime a championship announcement. As far as the numbers concern, got Oatsy and Grizz the wrong way around. Well, let's just check silver. It was. Oh, that is terrible. That is terrible from us. Okay, so let's just clarify something. That is embarrassing. Let's just clarify something. It was Oatsy leading the charge and Grizz was behind. So this graphic here, totally incorrect. That's our mistake. That's on us. We can own up to a mistake like that. So it's not Grizz. It is in fact Oatsy. Double championship win for silver. So we've had to run the numbers on that, but wow. He has done that there. He's cleared the margin by well over that, as a matter of fact, well over. He led by 9 points, has actually opened that up. So, yeah, that was just a clerical error on our end. So, greatest apologies there to Grizz and Oatsy for the incorrections there on the charts. But there you have it. That's the Silver Championship decided. That's the end of the line. And frankly, for good reason. We have been running around like headless chickens to try and bring you these broadcasts for the last 11 weeks going. We've suffered through technical difficulties of our very own, and so have these drivers. They've been through the absolute ringer for Season 8. But one thing that we can be certain on is the Gold Championship win for White Doctor. So, after some corrections there, it is Oatsy who wins the Silver Division there. So that has been corrected. The Bronze Championship is still well and truly decided there for Smiler. He led the charge for Bronze coming into this round. He turned things around in Barcelona after the points were tallied in. So our sincerest apologies to the Silver duo. We have gotten that wrong the entire broadcast. But, well, if it didn't keep you on your toes, I don't know what will. But there you have it. Oh, man. It's embarrassing from us, but... oh well, that is the end of the line here from TRTN. So yeah, we had to, that was almost reminiscent there, the 1976 championship of Formula 1. We really had to go back double through all the numbers, but that was actually in favour of Oatsy. So he'll be more than definitely now moving up into gold. Grizz may be given honorary promotion. We have seen multiple drivers from a division be promoted based on performance reviews, but frankly, we just don't know at this time. That's the end of the line, though, for us here on TRTN. I really need a rest. It's about 500 degrees in this recording studio. We'll be catching you after the summer break here on VSR, heading into September. And we've got about a month's break here, about a month and a half, so, you know, relax, grill, have a few beers, relax with your families, your friends, what have you. We'll be back in September for VSR coverage. If you're joining us for the rest of our coverage, we'll be quite busy over the course of the searing summer season as this Sunday kicks off the first round of NLRL Sunday League Season 3. We'll be happily looking forward to that. Our third season running with our friends over on NLRL. What a season that has been. This is the hardest part of the job, isn't it, really, letting go of what has been a fantastic championship. Very well done to our race winner today there, Tyler Vermack, bringing home a grand slam in front of the home crowd in Kyalami. And very well done to our championship winners, as clarified, White Doctor, Oatsy, not Grizz. Both fair play to Grizz, and we're not going to detract away from what he's been able to do over the course of the championship, but close but no cigar, let's put it that way. And it's a bit of a stuff up on our end. And very well done as well to Smiler for the win in bronze. That's all from us, though, on TRTN. And a warm goodbye, really. It has been a pleasure. For those of the drivers that we may not be seeing again, it has been a real pleasure indeed. And Godspeed. Goodbye.